What are the symptoms of depression?
Well, depression, as I said, is a very complex disorder, but its symptoms can be categorized into 4 categories. Disturbances of the emotions, disturbances of the thinking, disturbances of something called the housekeeping function of the brain, the hypothalamus, which rules sleep, appetite, energy, and sex. That's how you know it's a physical thing, not just something that someone's made up, because you lose your appetite, lose your sex drive, you can't sleep, have no energy. That's not just an imagined thing. That's a physical thing you feel in your body.
Absolutely.
And the last level is changes in behavior. So your thinking, your feeling, your physiology, and behavior are all affected. Now, there are 3 ways to look at these symptoms: number, intensity, and duration. So as I read the symptoms of depression in a minute, think the more of the symptoms you have, the worse off you are. The more intense they are, the more deep the depression is, and the longer they last.
Okay.
So if there's a lot of them, they last a long time and they're intense, you've got a bad case. If they're short-lived and they're not very intense, not so bad. By the way, I should also remind you that there are many different kinds of depression. We're going to talk about clinical depression in a minute, but there's also bipolar disorder or manic depression.
Sure.
Where you have the highs and you have the lows. Then there's situational depression, where I mentioned before, people losing a job or having a trauma. Then there's something we're going through right now here in the Northern Hemisphere, seasonal affective disorder or winter depression, when there's not enough light. There's postpartum depression.
Right.
And perhaps the most common depression of all is called dysthymia. From the Greek word thymus, the thymus gland was used to be considered the seat of joy.
Oh.
And dysfunctional, so lack of joy. Anyway, so what is dysthymia? It's this chronic low-grade depression that persists over years. You don't have the ups and the downs and the highs and the lows and the episodes of regular depression, but you're just feeling this kind of grayness, a lack of zest, a lack of the joy of life. Eeyore the donkey in A.A. Milne's Winnie the Pooh, who's always kind of melancholic and grumpy and saw everything in a negative way, the eternal pessimist.
Sure.
That's dysthymia.
Okay.
And a lot of people who come to me are really gratified that they've got this label now, because they never knew why, most of their lives they were just walking around without the ability to really become enthusiastic about things. They never really were, super depressed, but they were never super happy.
Right.
This is dysthymia. And if you have dysthymia, like I do, and then you get an episode of clinical depression, it's called double depression.
Wow.
Doesn't sound like much fun, does it?
No, it doesn't.
So let me read something now from my book. This is actually from the Diagnostic Criteria for Major Depressive Disorder, coming out of the DSM-4, which is the Mental Health Bible.
Okay.
So it says here that for a person to be diagnosed as clinically depressed, you have to have 5 of these symptoms, and they have to persist for more than 2 weeks. So the first symptom is depressed mood most of the day, just sadness. The second is markedly diminished interest in pleasure. This is a big key. You remember when you were depressed how you couldn't take pleasure in any of the things you used to feel good about?
Absolutely.
Whether it's sports or eating or sexuality, people just lose their interest in these things.
Yeah, definitely.
Then there's a specific change in appetite, leading to weight gain or weight loss. People either eat too much or they don't eat enough. The fourth symptom is called insomnia or hypersomnia. That's when you either don't sleep enough or you sleep too much. And by the way, the insomnia of depression is not that you can't fall asleep, it's that you can't stay asleep. People fall asleep and then they wake up in the middle of the night and can't get back to sleep. They're either anxious or they're ruminating. You've been there.
Yeah.
It's hell. Okay, the fifth symptom is what's called psychomotor agitation or retardation every day. That sounds kind of like a strange way of putting it, but it means you're either highly agitated and depressed, or you're moving like you're walking through molasses. Everything is slowed down. So either extreme. Fatigue or loss of energy nearly every day is the sixth symptom, and that is something that almost everybody who's been depressed can just relate to.
Yeah.
You just have no energy. Everything is difficult. Someone once said, filling up the sugar bowl felt like climbing Mount Everest.
Wow.
Seventh symptom is feelings of worthlessness or excessive inappropriate guilt. Just feeling really horrible about yourself, blaming yourself, lots of guilt and self-recrimination. The next symptom is diminished ability to think or to concentrate. I couldn't read, could you, when you were depressed?
No.
Impossible. And the final and the most severe symptom is suicide. Suicidal thoughts, suicidal plans, and of course, why do people with severe depression start to think about suicide? They think about it when they've lost hope.
Right.
They've given up everything. And they think there's no way that they're going to get better. So, these 9 symptoms I mentioned, if you have 5 of them in a 2-week period, and your functioning in the world is impaired, so that you can't go to work, you can't connect with your friends and family, you start to withdraw. So if there's a dysfunction in your occupational or your social world, plus you've got these 5 symptoms, you are considered clinically depressed.
Okay.
Then it is time to seek treatment.